Thanks for joining me on Playing with Rain. Today we are going to learn about hailstorms and particularly about hailstones like these and how they fall from the sky. To do this experiment, you only need a few very simple materials. You're going to need a hair dryer, and then you're also going to want to have an assortment of styrofoam balls. Of course, I have them in a bowl here just to keep them from rolling around the table and falling. You can put them in a bag as well, but a big one here, this is about a 5-6 inch diameter size styrofoam ball. We have one that's a little bit smaller, about 4 inches in diameter, and then it gets smaller from there. This one's about 1.5 to 2 inches diameter, and then we have a ping pong ball about the same size but a different color, different density, and we'll see why here in just a little bit. And then a slightly smaller styrofoam ball as well, and then a little tiny kind of pea-sized one that we're going to demonstrate with. So we have all these different sizes. I'm going to put those back into the bowl here just so they don't roll around on me. And to go ahead and get started, we're going to grab our smallest styrofoam ball. Gonna grab the hair dryer. You'll want to set it to your lowest setting you have because this little guy is gonna fly pretty far and pretty fast. So let's see what happens. Woo. So that one flew pretty quick and it blew away. I actually fell down on the floor somewhere. So I'm gonna grab the next biggest styrofoam ball. This indicates a slightly bigger hailstone. So let's see what this does. Okay. Ooh. So that one went up in the sky, stayed there a little longer, but still fell pretty quickly as it fell out of that current of air. Now we go to our next one. Any guesses to what's going to happen with this one? There we go. Now this one here is floating pretty good, and this is just on the medium setting that I have. Watch what happens if I go to the high setting. Wow. That's we got that to float pretty good, right? Let's try it one more time just because it's fun. All right, now I'm gonna crank it up a notch. Woo! Okay. All right, that one was pretty good. About lost the rest of these balls here though when that one fell. So now we go to one that's close to the same size, if not a little bit smaller. This is a ping pong ball. And it's on medium, it's floating, but not all that impressive. Go to the high speed, and it floats pretty good. You can move this one around, it's kind of fun. You can even angle it a little bit like this to see how long it's gonna stay at an angle before it eventually does fall. And that one, you can float that around. It's really fun. The kids love to get involved with this to help out as well. It's a very easy, safe experiment for that. Now we go to the next one. This is about a 4-inch diameter ball. These do fall from hailstorms, but not very often, luckily, because they do create a lot of damage when that does happen. As we turn this on, lower speed, medium speed, doesn't do much. Put it up to that high power of that wind. This indicates an updraft and a thunderstorm rising quickly, and you start to get a little bit more of that ball moving up into above the dryer. But then this is the cool part. This is my favorite part of this experiment. Notice as I turn this to about a 45-degree angle, and we're not only now creating wind that's keeping it up in the air, but it's also spinning as it hits the ball at an angle, and it's creating what we call wind shear, and that's actually going to push that ball pretty far out. I'm going to try it one more time. Okay, let's try this again. I'm going to regroup. We're going to put the ball on here, and it does start to spin, but I love to get it at about that 45-degree angle. As that happens, it is hard to see on the camera, but the ball is spinning really, really fast right now as it stays suspended in the air. And that, wow, there we go. It's finally gonna fall. I'm gonna let it fall to the ground, and I'm going to go to this next big one. So that one fell. It did take a lot of wind power to keep it in the air. So I'm sure you're all gonna guess, well, this one's not gonna be as cool. It's not gonna fly as good, right? And that is the case. It's on the highest power I have, and it's hovering just barely, maybe 1/8 of an inch above the discharge on the hair dryer. And it is spinning though, it's still hovering, but as soon as I turn it, I angle it, anything like that, it's gonna fall back to the ground pretty quickly. So What do we learn from this experiment? Well, it's a pretty simple demonstration, but it teaches a pretty cool phenomenon in the wonderful world of weather, and that really is how can ice balls, balls of ice that very rarely can get up to even this size of a hailstone, how can they fall out of the sky, especially on a hot summer day? Well, what really happens is you get a warm summer day, you get the sun out heating up the surface of the earth, you get warm air starting to rise up into the sky, and as air rises, it begins to cool, it begins to condense, you get clouds to form, and when those clouds get high enough into the atmosphere, it's actually cold enough, very cold in fact, that it freezes water droplets to ice. And so in a thunderstorm, the lower part of the cloud can have those water droplets, they get pushed up into the upper part of the cloud, they turn into ice, and that process will continue depending on how strong your updraft is. Again, this representing the updraft, the wind that is created from the hairdryer, similar to that wind that in a thunderstorm is created that pulls those hailstones up into the thunderstorm. And depending on how long the hailstones can stay in that cycle of up and down inside that cloud, getting more layers on them, that's basically what determines the size of those hailstones. Once they finally overcome that updraft and gravity pulls them back down to the earth, depends on the size of those. Now, some hailstones can be different colors, and usually they're clear, a very clear kind of transparent ice, but sometimes they're more of a cloudy, kind of foggy color as well. And that is just dependent on the amount of moisture, the amount of water in the clouds. And that's why I kind of like to use the ping pong ball compared to the other styrofoam balls that are white, because even though this was the same size as the other styrofoam ball, it didn't float quite the same. It was a different density because it may have had a little bit more water content compared to the styrofoam ball, the more cloudy, if you will, hailstone that has a little bit more kind of air content mixed in there that makes it more of that cloudy, different density type of hailstone. So that's a little bit about how hailstones form in the sky. Interesting fact is the largest hailstone ever reported in the United States was in Vivian, South Dakota, and it was a whopping 8 inches in diameter. So this one here is about 5-6 inches, but 8 inches, that's larger than a grapefruit falling from the sky. So something you don't want to have happen. Again, just a great idea to stay indoors, stay safe when any storms like that are headed your way. But I hope this was fun for you. I hope you learned something from it. I know I certainly learn something new every time I do one of these experiments. Thank you again for watching. And please don't forget to hit that subscribe button, like our page, all that fun stuff. We also do have our website, playingwithrain.com, and we go a little bit more in depth on some of the science behind these experiments there. So you might enjoy that. Might be some good resources to use for teaching kids about this there that you can find as well. If you do have any feedback, any comments, things like that, I'd love to hear from that. Maybe you can suggest some experiments that you'd like to see me do, and I would love to try those out. Feel free to leave those in the comments. You can find us on social media as well. Thanks again, and we'll be back with more fun experiments another time.